Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 228 of the All Dolphins podcast. And you can see already by the presence of the two gentlemen at the bottom of the screen, this is version 5 of When Dolphin Podcasts Unite or Collide, whatever you want to say. We are joined today, very happy, by our good buddies, our media colleagues, Chris Tua Hater Perkins in the bottom left corner, and Adam Swell Guy Beasley in the right bottom corner.
Coupard feels like he's not alone anymore, and this time he's not surrounded by crazy people. All right.
No, Omar, I do a podcast with you daily. Yes, I'm surrounded by crazy people. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Perk and I are not Tua haters. We are Tua objective analysts. Is that better, Perk?
That's better. That's accurate.
And I'm not a Tua lover. Tuanon will never embrace me.
Omar,
no, they don't.
Come on now.
I don't get in. I'm on the like wanted list. They need to be more active.
So look.
What happened, Perk?
Perk didn't upgrade
I cut out for a second. So here's my thing on Tua and why I wrote yesterday on sunsentinel.com why I would not extend Tua. Number one, I don't think that he's good enough, and that's not a slam on Tua. He's a legit Pro Bowl quarterback, as we saw last season. But he does not have a playoff victory in a passing era with 4 other Pro Bowlers on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, you've got to produce a playoff.
0 for 1, Perk. He's 0 for 1.
Well, you had all this talent
against Patrick Mahomes.
That's all right. Look, the window is short. The window is short.
Only people who can win you a Super Bowl deserve quarterback money.
No, I didn't say win a Super Bowl. I said win a playoff game. Like you're going to end up, but like the Cowboys with Dak Prescott. You're shoveling all this money to this guy, and you don't know what he can do for you. Really, he needs. And the other thing that I said is that look, if this thing falls apart this year, if it goes sideways, I want to be liquid because I would consider clearing house. I would consider getting rid of Greer, getting rid of McDaniel, and letting the new people decide, do we want Tua? I'm not going to handcuff. They can keep Tua. They can keep Christian Wilkins, whatever. But I want them to have the decision. You're not coming in. I'm not searching for a GM and a coach saying you have to use this quarterback. I'm staying liquid because I can shift gears.
Hold on, Perk. My only problem with the whole thing you just said, and Bees, you wanted to jump in, you'll by all means go after me. I'm going to do this very quickly. My only problem with everything you just said is you in your column, because yes, I read your column, my friend. You said you're okay signing Tua to a deal if it's like below market or whatever. Yeah. Well, you're still creating the same issue of tying yourself to quarterback if the thing needs to be blown up.
You are, but you could get out of it at some point. It would be painful, but if you're going to sign, the only way I'm signing him to a multi-year deal is if it's below market value, if it's to my advantage.
Name the number. What's the price? Below market value. What's the price? Hold on. Can we do the introductions? We just jumped in here and we're like going round 2 and we haven't even introduced the fighters. We've got Chris Perkins from Dolphins Deep Dive, Sun Sentinel columnist over there in the left corner. We got Adam Beasley from Pro Football Network, Pro Football Miami Dolphins podcast. Beasley, we got a lot to get in with you, but since we've already just began this haymaker of Tua sucks, don't pay Tua, which is every single damn Dolphins conversation.
You didn't say that.
Please, Beasley, your stance on this situation.
Okay, so by the way, thank you for welcoming me to your show. It's very gracious that I can be a part of this. I'm going to count the number of words I get in the next hour. It's going to be under 300, I'm sure. Okay. Here's the way you got to look at it. Do the Dolphins in 2024 think that 2023 they had the goods and they just got screwed by injuries? Or do they think, hey, we are behind the Chiefs, we are behind the Ravens, we will be behind the Bengals once Joe Burrow gets better? We are certainly behind the Bills. They took it to us twice, including once in their own house. If you're the Dolphins and you think that should inform every decision you make from a personal standpoint, because if you're not close loading up this offseason and taking all these contract restructures and throwing all that credit card money, those charges into the future, aren't going to help you because you're still going to be out in the wild card of the divisional round anyway. And then all you're going to have to show for it is a fiscal cliff in 2025. Their numbers in 2025 are so scary because they don't have basically any players under contract beyond 2024. And the ones you do, Tyreek Hill, he's not going to love to hear this, will probably be gone. This is probably Tyreek Hill's last season with the Miami Dolphins. 100% it is.
Let Beasley finish. We're going to get into that later. Go ahead, Beasley.
So if I'm the Dolphins, I don't load up this year. I don't take every single contract and restructure it. I don't try to squeeze every last dime. What I do is I try to make smart, long-term signings. And to me, if 2 is the right number, $45 million a year, $100 million or so guaranteed, I'm cool with that because that gets you through that bridge of what's going to be a rough 2025, 2026, and then gets you on the other side where you have a quarterback. You might not love him, but you have a quarterback. You have a situation that you can still deal with football because things can, like if you just let Tua play out the contract this year and you don't and you load up so you have to cut a bunch of guys next year, you could be looking at like a 5 or 6 win season in 2025. Like you really could. Things could get totally ugly. What does Steve Ross continually talk about? Sustainability. What they're doing right now isn't sustainable. And if they take on a bunch more credit card debt this year and make 2025, 2026 a complete bleep show, and then only get to the divisional round to show for it, I think that's the worst of all worlds, to be honest.
May I chime in here, please? First, the foolishness that you said about this being Tyreek's last year. Tyreek is about to re-up, become the highest paid player in the league again, get a new contract, add some more years to it, so he's not going to be retiring anytime soon, just to allow them to create cap space. And he'll say to Steve Ross, thank you for my $25 million check, sir. Appreciate you. Enjoy your cap space.
So by re-up, do you mean restructure or do you mean extend?
Extend. Add years to the deal.
The guy is 30 years old.
He's still a top 10 player in the NFL?
He's a speed player at 30 years old. Then you're talking about
is he still a top 10 player in the NFL, Adam Beasley?
Of course he is. He was runner-up offensive player of the year. But that's not what an extension is. An extension is what is this guy going to look like in 2-3 years? And if I had to pick one in 2025, 2026, 2027, I'm picking Jalen Waddle over Tyreek Hill. I am, because I think he is the one that has a chance of playing at a high level in 3, 4, 5 years.
You're crazy.
Yeah, I'm taking Tyreek.
I'm taking Tyreek too.
It's not
34-year-old Tyreek Hill.
I'm not looking past a 3-year window on anybody.
His cap number at age 34 is going to be like $65 million in the scenario you're talking about. Like that's what it's going to be because they keep just chucking that can down the road, just keep kicking it down the road.
Yeah.
You're going to be the New Orleans Saints, and you're going to have a bunch of.
They are the New Orleans Saints right now.
No.
I mean, it can get worse, but they're as my colleague Poupard has said, they've already jumped off the cliff. But there is no turning back.
There's degrees of injury at this point. You can jump off the cliff and like grab a branch and just break your leg, or you can fall the whole way down and snap your body in half. Okay, that's kind of what the choice they're facing right now.
I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you. I looked at the numbers and calculated everything, and I said to myself, you might be better off resetting it now than continuing to move down this pipeline. But you said something that fundamentally just they love Tua. Every single person on this panel knows that they love Tua, knows that they're committed to him, knows that they're building around him. While you can all agree, disagree at some level, think that he's not Patrick Mahomes, he's not Lamar Jackson, he's not Josh Allen, he is not Joe Burrow, and he isn't any of those players. They are committed and in love with him.
Okay,
you will acknowledge that, correct?
Right. One quick thing, and then I'll cede the floor again. Yes, they are, but they also know reality. They also know that you're ceiling.
Do they be though? That's my question. Do they though?
They know they're ceiling with Tua.
McDaniel knows. Say McDaniel knows. Does he know?
He probably knows the ceiling with Tua in that conference is probably the AFC Championship game. So, but here's the thing: we've collectively covered the team probably like 60 years, 70 years, like a long time collectively.
Me and him is 50 together.
Yeah,
you're probably another
I'm a decade plus. Yeah,
Huh?
a decade plus. Yeah.
I'm 15. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're talking about 70, 80 years of combined.
75 years of covering the Dolphins.
Okay. How many times? Like, when's the last time it was like, oh man, they're just going to get to the playoffs and lose? No, it's they'll be lucky to win 9 games. Right. That's how the existence we've had. So things are without question, the franchise is in a better place now than it was 6, 7 years ago. There's no question you can say that.
Right.
But that only goes so far. You at some point want to be able to take the next step. And do they think this core can get them there?
What is
and
the option,
and if it does, it has to be this year. Right?
Exactly.
Because
it does have to be this year.
Right.
But what is their option? Do you think they're resetting? They're not.
Well, you can do a soft reset. The point I'm making is you can take some of these contracts, instead of clearing $100 million of cap space, you clear 60, 65, right? And you get to a point where you have to, where you're not saying, okay, and here's a perfect example, Tyreek Hill. If they restructure him and don't give him an extension, which you think they will, but if they just restructure him, they will have to move him next year. They will.
Why would you just restructure him? Why wouldn't you add years in, lower the cap number? He's already the highest paid receiver. He's going to continue to be the highest paid receiver.
If you're advanced statisticians and you're sports science guys, I'll tell you there's not going to be a drop off. You can think what you see of Tyreek now, you're going to see out of Tyreek at age 34. Then you make that deal.
Tyreek, if that's the league as somebody completely different than anybody who's ever been here before, why would he not continue to be that? And
because
just at 30, he just had a career year. Did he not?
Well, 29.
Okay. I'm sorry.
But also, Father Time is undefeated. So yes, at some point that is going to catch up. You want to be committed to a guy at age 34 or at age 35 that is going to hamstring you in so many different ways. These are conversations they have to be having right now.
Absolutely. Yes. They are conversations, but yes, hamstring me to one of the top 10 players in the NFL, the guy who carried my offense. And yes, I said it, Perkin, carried my offense for an entire season, for an entire 2 seasons. The guy who's a marquee player, who's got the marquee name like a quarterback, please, who's making my quarterback look better and look like an MVP candidate. Yeah. Please hamstring me, tie me to him, shackle me with chains, please. What would you like, sir?
They will be looking for jobs in 2025, 2026, if that's what they do. Like, seriously, they will. And it's the same as if you get $60 million a year.
They probably will be looking for jobs, but that's not the decision that's going to force them to be looking for jobs. That's the player that's going to make every GM excited to take this job.
Yeah, look, I think if I'm gonna re-sign Tua and keep Mike McDaniel, I am 100% keeping Tyreek Hill, because that's the guy who makes this whole thing go. One of my problems, though, with Tua one of my fears, and it's not with Tua, it's with Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer. I think that their thinking is like the Joe Philbin, Adam Gase thinking with Ryan Tannehill. I can change him. I can make him better. And I think McDaniel is thinking that too. And it's like, no, the dude is what he is. And that's what I fear that they're doing with Tua.
Didn't he change him and didn't he make him better?
He's almost tapped out. He's almost at his ceiling. So I mean, if you're gonna commit to him long term, do it with that understanding, and that's why I would bring Tyreek Hill along for the ride, because Tyreek makes Tua and this offense so much better.
Yeah, I think that's the entire gamble of this offseason. Does Tua have another gear, right? Does Tua have another level that he can get to? And if they double down on what they have and they max out their credit card and they give him the extension that we all think he's going to get in some capacity, that's their answer. Like, yes, we think Tua has another level. Color me a bit dubious with that. Like I am so much skeptical that we are going to see another quantum leap forward, because you don't often see another big leap forward at this stage of your career.
Right.
No, Biz, you raised the most important question, which was, do the Dolphins think they have the makings of a Super Bowl contender with their nucleus now, and do they attribute everything that happened at the end of 2023 on injuries? And I think they're going to kid themselves or make themselves believe that that's the only reason. And this is why I think they're heading down the path of continuing the plunge, no hanging on to branches anywhere. I want to switch gears. Sorry, go ahead.
Now, just one quick thing. They've got to face the reality that this was the most winnable year the AFC is ever going to be. The most true.
That's not true. That was injuries. The Bills and the Chiefs are all having cap issues. They've all got key free agents.
The Chiefs cap issues, for once, I'm going to agree with you, aren't real because of the way Mahomes' contract is structured. They can create tens upon tens of millions of dollars with the Patrick Mahomes deal alone. So
didn't say it's not easy to navigate out of, but they're going to lose. Championship teams lose talent. They're going to lose talent. You never know how injuries are going to impact a team. Look at what happened to Cincinnati. Patrick Mahomes could tear an ACL on week 5 of the season, or something that happened to Aaron Rodgers could happen to Josh Allen. You never know. So do I agree with you that the 2023 team was the best team that they probably will ever put around Tua? Yes. You could look at the roster right now, unless they pull a rabbit out of a hat, which Chris Greer could potentially do. Mm-hmm. This was the best roster that he's ever going to be able to put around Tua.
I'm with you because the AFC probably has not been as winnable as it was in 23 and might not be again for a while, because we're talking about Cincinnati logically is going to have Joe Burrow back. Jacksonville was a fire, bro.
Jacksonville?
Yes, Jacksonville. Jacksonville started off well and everything went to pieces. The Chargers now actually have a real coach. They could become an issue. The Steelers, if they ever get a quarterback, that's a problem team. I think Omar, I think you're way off the track here if you think that wasn't a great shot for any AFC team, and the Chiefs were about as vulnerable as they've been since Mahomes became the starter.
But you know what? Let me say this, though. The Dolphins shouldn't be worried about these other teams. They should be worried about the Dolphins. Like, dude, you got Jalen Ramsey. You got Tyreek Hill. You got, Teron is old, but, all these Pro Bowl, people. And
look at you disrespecting Raheem Mostert again. Look at you. Always the disrespect for Raheem.
Didn't mention Tua either.
But I haven't. Okay, do I have to mention everybody? Come on.
Do I have to mention anyone? Just the starting quarterback, okay? Just the starting quarterback.
Okay, they've got Tua. Do I have to mention Mike White and Skylar Thompson? Do I have to mention?
Wow! Did you come in with the backups? Way to go!
Come on, I can just mention a couple of names and not be a hater, can I? Come on. But look. They did have a bunch of talent, great amount of talent last year, but you got to put that thing back together again this year because the Super Bowl window is still open. I don't care who else is in the AFC. As long as you've got these guys, you better consider yourself a Super Bowl contender and not worry about other teams. Worry about what you can do to your team. If you need to shift gears like Kansas City did and play with some defense, win with some defense, whatever you have to do.
But what players? They got 5 players on the roster, perfect.
You've got this, the window is still open. Oh, they've got to figure it out. You can't. If I'm the Dolphins, I'm not worried about what Buffalo has and if Joe Burrow is healthy. I'm looking at my team and saying, how are we going to whoop their butts? Because we're that good. 2025, I don't know if you can say that. But 2024, you can.
But are they that good? That's the question. Are they that good?
They've got to be. They've got to be better than they were last year. You've got to. Or
they were one of the hottest teams in the NFL last year until they.
Teams.
Let me throw this out then. If you're Steve Ross and this thing doesn't work, why are you bringing these guys back? They've taken all your money. They've taken the best talent that you compiled in 2 decades, and they couldn't even win a playoff game.
And they make you write all these ridiculous checks to run it back again. And I don't disagree with you. I don't know if Chris Greer can survive if this team doesn't win.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're getting this on the record. Your standard is Super Bowl or Chris Greer gets fired.
No.
Playoff win. Playoff win. One.
That's a success. That's a success for a $1.5 billion. Basically that's what it's been. Since
Tell me what else this franchise has done for 2 decades.
$1.5 billion exercise, 1 playoff win, and you're good. Is that what you're saying?
No. Listen to me. Here's what I've said. That if they need to win 2 playoff games this year, so that means
they didn't win one last year. You trying to raise the bar?
Yes, of course. Yes, I'm raising the bar.
How about you clear the first hurdle, then you get to the second one?
No, screw that. You should have cleared the first hurdle this year. You're 2 hurdles down the race now. Screw that. You tripped over the first hurdle. There's nothing we can do about that. Win 2 playoff games this year, and you're probably back. Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel. Win 1 playoff game. Let's see how it goes.
I didn't know I was going to be talking to some logical.
I guarantee you, if Mike McDaniel makes the playoffs, he's back in 2025.
Oh,
I guarantee you.
That is such a low bar and such a low standard. That should be unacceptable. And look, I like Mike McDaniel. I like Tua, but I got to see some results. Like, if you can't win with this talent, the talent's only getting lower for the rest of the time you're with the Dolphins. So what are
or are they overestimating their talent? I mean, that's a question. Are yes, they have contracts. Are they overestimating their talent?
Have we? I haven't. They have talent. Like, I haven't overestimated their talent. They're I don't know, definitely top 10 in the NFL as far as talent.
Okay, I mean, yeah, that's what top 10 is. First round playoff loss. Like, that's
not right. That's not good enough. You have underachieved. That's my whole point. Like, why do I want you back in 2025 if I gave you 2023 or 2022 3 years? I can't. My math is bad. 3 years and you couldn't win a playoff game. Like, why do I want you back for a 4th year?
Listen,
because one quick rejoinder, because you can't let this go. Because it's so bleeping hard to find good coaches.
But are you good? How do you know you're good?
You don't think
you can't win a playoff game with this talent? How do I know? What makes you think that's a good coach?
Because this just sounds exactly like the media room. But I am not going to crush him for losing with Skylar Thompson in Buffalo. And you know what? There are some extenuating circumstances when you don't have your 3/4 of your good defensive players and you play in the North Pole. Okay. Now let's see how this season goes.
Thank you, Beasley. I like this side. This side of the panel here. This side is the rational side. This side is the side that makes sense. This side is the side that looks at.
You know who else lost to the Chiefs this year? The Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills and the San Francisco 49ers. Are they talking about firing their coaches?
Bees, hold on. I've been basically like simpatico with everything you said. You just lost me there. Because to me, it's not just about the damn playoff game. It's about every time they play good teams. Look at their record the past 2 years with McDaniel, with Tua, with Tyreek Hill. When they play good, and Omar's rolling his eyes again as he does, because it's not annoying at all. No, I have to say it's not annoying. Anyway, but tell me where the lie is. When they play good teams, they don't match up.
Right.
And what are their two wins?
Can you at least acknowledge that most of the time that they play these good teams, they're on the road?
So what, Omar?
So what? Again,
half your games are on the road.
I mean, they beat Buffalo despite getting outgained by 250 yards. They beat Baltimore in that fluky game in week 2, and then they beat Dallas barely. And every other game, not only do they lose, they more often than not get handled and semi-exposed.
But this conversation is a perfect microcosm of what the conversations they need to be having in that building. Like, are we close? Or are we fooling ourselves into thinking we're close? And if it's door number 2, do not tie yourselves to aging players with a bunch of restructures that are going to get you nowhere in 2025 and beyond.
I don't disagree with you, Beasley, but I think the issue is that you're not built to play playoff football. And I think if you do certain things that gives you a seismic shift that allow you to be built to play playoff football, maybe let's say add a Derrick Henry, add a physical running game, add some interior linemen that give you a little bit more interior offensive and defensive linemen that give you a little bit more physicality. Maybe you can play better in these critical games.
So stop being a finesse team, in other words, right, Omar? Bees, here's my problem where you said when you're suggesting the Dolphins need to be honest with themselves. Here's the problem when you're dealing with self-confident coaches that sometimes they think, I'll get the best out of them. I'll get them to that next level, even though there is no next level, because we saw that with Adam Gase and Ryan Tannehill.
Okay, I will say this. Mike McDaniel was far more humble than Adam Gase was. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And he's far.
Yes.
What's that?
Me and you are here, Beasley. We are absolutely here.
I think he's also a lot more self-aware. What was it that Adam Gase once said? I can win with a tree stump as a quarterback. Like that was his mindset. I don't think Mike McDaniel would have taken this job if it was a tree stump at quarterback. I think he thinks he has something better than that. Now the question is, does he have a realistic view of what that quarterback is? I would hope that the guy who's seen more practice and game snaps than anybody would be realistic about it, but I guess we'll find out.
Hold on. Why isn't he realistic? Why do we conclude that a guy who just completed his 4th season, has been the #1 passer rated guy, has been the top yardage producing guy, that he cannot continue to improve? Is he too old? Is he ancient? Is he too like, why is it that we've factored in our brain that Tua cannot improve anymore?
He
let me say this.
He did not improve in 2023. And look at, sorry, Bees, I know you were going to say something. Look at a lot of the metrics, the important metrics, and you can play with the numbers. And that notion that he's done nothing but this, sorry, it's not completely accurate. At best, he maintained, if not digressed a hair in 2023. Go ahead.
Can I say something that's going to break the internet? Like, this is not about Tua. It's not. It's about the offense. It's about the offense. You've got to get the plays in faster to Tua. You've got to get a #3 receiver. You need a receiving tight end. You need a power run game. You need all that. Then we can talk about Tua. But this is bigger than Tua. This is most of
you know how to get all those things. You know how to get all those things. You draft. And they haven't drafted it all the last 2 years at all. And that's the bill that's coming due for this franchise. The salary cap certainly is a problem. Mm-hmm. Who are their young talents? Like Holland's going to want a new deal. Waddle's going to want a new deal. Jalen Phillips are going to want new deals. You can't live in that world where you're paying everybody. So who's that next line coming up? Like, sure, Achane was a great pick. Like, what did you get? 3rd round pick for that guy? Mm-hmm. That's basically it for their last 2 drafts. That's basically it. That's the bill that's coming due right now.
Yeah, let's move forward in this conversation because we've hammered the fire Chris Greer, Tua. We haven't even gotten into the good stuff. Each of us have our own complicated relationship with Christian Wilkins. So we're gonna walk a very fine line here. How do we each handle the Christian Wilkins situation? Do you let him shake you down and pay him what he wants? Do you tag him, or do you expose him to the market?
I'm tagging him. Again, with the notion that I'm really not looking for a long-term relationship with very many players at this point, because I've got to stay liquid. I don't know what's coming in the future. So I tag them, and then we can decide, do we want to sign them to a long-term deal? What happens this year? Is it proven? But I 100% would have Christian Wilkins on my 2024 roster. 100%.
Bees?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of your best players. He's the heart and soul of your defense. You need to do whatever you can to keep him. I don't know if it would be a terrible idea for him to get a taste of the market, though. Like maybe transition tag, maybe that way you have a chance to if his market's coming in lower than he expected, then you've got him boom guaranteed 1 year. And if there's a deal that you can match, you match it. But they have so many needs, guys. They have so many needs. And even if the cap is $250 million, they're still going to be $42, $43 million over the cap. And you lopping on another $20 million on top of that. I think transition tag actually might be the path forward because it gives you a chance to match any offer he gets.
You are totally disrespecting Christian Wilkins, but I don't necessarily say that I disagree with your line of thinking. Poupard, where are you on this situation?
You're gonna roll your eyes again at what I say, Omar?
Nope. Only rolling with Tua.
Bees, I'm back with you again. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Transition tag?
Perk, here's you kind of are sure he's going to be on your roster, but with the transition tag, unless somebody comes up with an absolutely crazy offer that you can't fathom paying. But this is a foundational piece. And Perk, you're talking about staying liquid, which is great. But even if you stay liquid to rebuild, isn't he somebody you'd want for a rebuild? The dude's like, what, just 25 years old?
He's older than you think. He's like 28.
Is he that old?
Yes, he is. He was.
Oh, yeah, because he played all those years at Clemson. Oh, wait a second. No, in that case, cut his ass.
Oh, damn. Christian is 28. I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know he was that old either. I'd still want to hang on to him because he's a foundational piece and just not with his play, with a tone setting and all that. But I like the idea of the transition tag.
While I will acknowledge that Beasley has a good idea on the transition tag to be cheaper, but you do realize that you're really going to piss him off. He's already pissed off. You're really going to piss him off if you transition tag him.
Why? Because you're letting him get to the market. Like what he wants, probably more than anything. Well, he says more than anything, he wants that lucrative long-term deal with the Miami Dolphins. Okay, so option 2 is getting that lucrative long-term deal, and you're giving him the opportunity. Like, you know what? Go set your market, and if we think it's right, you're going to get the best possible contract. Oh, and by the way, with no state income tax. By the way, you're still going to make more money than any other contract you make anywhere else because we don't have a state income tax. How is that disrespectful to the guy?
It's a business too, Omar. You said it before. And how much more disrespect is there than making him play on his 5th-year option last year?
You're right. I think that's a danger. I don't think he signs either the transition or the franchise tag, but I think it's a wiser bet to put the franchise tag on him just because you've seen players walk away from you with no payment on the transition tag. It's
the one time it's happened to the Dolphins. Charles Clay, they were brilliant not to match that contract. They were brilliant because
same thing with Olivier Vernon. Same thing. I mean, I'm not saying
the tag on Vernon, Omar. They rescinded the tag on Vernon.
They still put it on him, and they took it off when they weren't going to.
They got Mario Williams.
They got Mario Williams. Yeah.
And we can pretend like these are. Here's my thing about Christian. Christian is the first foundational piece. He is the first building block of everything that you've built. He's been everything that you've ever asked him to be in the community, durable player, locker room leader, improved every single season. If you don't do right by him, you won't do right by anybody. Right. So you have to retain him. Otherwise, everything that you built this on is a lie. And I'm not saying that it's not, because it is, but you have to sign, you have to maintain that he's here, which is why I would use the franchise tag. I'm not going to disrespect him any more than I've already disrespected him.
Omar, what they built this on is making trades for high-profile guys. I mean, this is where they've gotten where they are with Tyreek, Jalen Ramsey, and Bradley Chubb.
That's still the first piece, though. He's still the foundational piece. So we talked a little bit earlier about the Tua situation. I just want everybody on this panel. We all know the NFL numbers. We all know how the power dynamics in the league works, where it's agencies and it's agents and it's quarterbacks, and you got to make sure your quarterback is taken care of. Give me a proposal that you make to Tua, guaranteed. All I want is the guaranteed money and the average per year. Whether he accepts it or not, what is the fair deal that you would put on the table for Tua based on what he's achieved this first 4 seasons? Let's start with Beasley.
Yeah, I think I've already made mention of it. It's 45 to 48 million AAV is probably the wheelhouse he's in. That puts you, I would say roughly, it's a little bit more than Daniel Jones money. Daniel Jones plus inflation maybe is probably what you want. That's your home. And look, here's what the Dolphins' argument to Tua will be. We don't want you to go year to year, but we could do it. You know, if we could do it, if we had to, and we don't want to, we want to give you this long-term stability now. But if we had to, we got the franchise tag, and you know what? The 5th-year option, franchise tag 1 and franchise tag 2 would come out to roughly $135 million over 3 years. You know how much that is? $45 million a year. So that's what you say to Tua. It's like, hey, Tua, this is where we're starting. We're going to throw in a couple more million just to make you happy. Yeah. But that's kind of where we think your value is, and that's probably where the market would say your value is as well. And if he says no, best of luck.
Perk, where are you at?
I'm probably going a little bit lower than that. Again, it would have to be I wouldn't say almost an insult, but it would be a very team-friendly deal, probably 42 million a year average, and he wouldn't take that. He shouldn't take that. There's no reason for him to take that. So he can do better. He can do better. Like B said, if he gets the tag, he does better. So I don't want to say I would make him
and then risk injury every single season. when your injury risk was or concern was people assumed that you weren't going to be playing 10 years in the NFL already?
Yeah, look, I'm just saying if I'm him, I wouldn't take a below market value deal. And if I'm the Dolphins, that's what I would offer.
One quick thing, and I'm sorry I keep cutting you off, guys. You got to put yourself for a second into his shoes and wonder what's most important to him. Is it resetting the market for quarterbacks and getting $60 million a year? I agree with you, Omar. I don't think it is. And if you look at the possible situations, he's already had a terrible situation, right? He's played for Brian Flores on a garbage offense. Like, let's go back and look at George Godsey's schemes, okay? I mean, he's lived that life, okay? He's got
to catch a stray.
Hey, Kendall Lamb appreciates that.
Hey.
Truth is truth.
Eric Stoodsville was the co-coordinator on that. If somebody's going to catch a stray, both of them got to catch a stray now. Let's be fair.
We know which one was calling plays, okay? So, he's not going – Mike McDaniel is the best play caller he's ever played for. He is. He is the best play caller he's ever played for, who knows how to maximize his skills, because that's the Shanahan offense. That's the kind of quarterback that can have success, right? That is it. 2, where the hell else is he going to get the kind of weather? And he's not going to play in cold very often, living in South Florida, right? He needs to go to – he can't go to like a Green Bay. He can't go to a Chicago. So the list of potential teams that he would succeed with is relatively small. So if you take that market, and most of them already have quarterbacks, like the Niners would be a perfect team for him. They might have a better version of that in Brock Purdy. They might. And so when you get down to it, 2 his options aren't going to be what we think it might be. The number of teams clamoring to pay him even $45 million a year the list is probably going to be pretty small. So he needs to have that awareness at this point in his career that this, to me, is the best option. This contract they're offering me, it's not perfect. It's not what I want, but it's the best of what my reality is going to be.
Alan Poupard, what contract would you offer to a ton?
Well, if the goal is to be relevant and to make the playoffs or be a playoff contender every year, Beasley's deal is perfectly fine. If the goal is to be an actual championship contender and with the idea of winning a Super Bowl, I'm sorry, show me you can get to that you have not attained your ceiling already. So play on your 5th-year option. We'll revisit next year. If you completely ball out, then we'll talk about a long-term extension. And then again, even if it winds up costing the Dolphins more in the long run, hell, you would have gotten something out of it, and it gives you another year of evaluation. Because right now, to me, I think there are still questions about Tua in terms of exactly what his ceiling is. I tend to believe, if I'm going to have to weigh one side or the other, that he's semi-maxed out. And unfortunately for the Dolphins, if they were in the NFC, that'd be more than good enough. In the AFC, I don't think it's going to cut it. So absolutely for me. And even though it sucks from a salary cap standpoint, because I understand you extend him, you lower his cap number for 2024 when he can use the help. This is the most important position. You have to get it right. You don't get saddled with a guy who's good,
right,
but not quite good enough,
right,
just because you want to take care of your cap situation for 1 year.
Well, Alan, you say you're saddled with him? Like, how long are you talking? Like, I think if you give him the contract that I mentioned,
usually about 3 years, probably.
2, probably 2, and you could probably move on. You can cut him.
Every quarterback has a 3-year commitment to them, so more than likely Tua is not going to walk away from anything without a 3-year guaranteed money commitment.
Well, no, the guaranteed money will be there, like $100 million plus. Probably 120 would likely get it done. 3 years,
120, 130. If you and here's to answer my own question, if your 5th-year option and the franchise tax next year gets you to $60 million, and it does generally, because all those figures are not computed yet. And more than likely, the escalating price of when Dak gets a new deal and Trevor Lawrence gets his new deal, and all these other guys, it's going to raise the numbers. But so if I'm paying Tua committing to 60 over 2, and then I throw on another 60 over whatever the duration of it, and put it at 120. I'm not disagreeing with you, Beasley. 120, 130 over 3. That's a fair offer for me.
And that's the thing is you got to remember the cap, the tag would go up an additional 20% with the second year. So it would go from roughly 50 million to 60 million. So those are big numbers. I will say this though, I don't think we should discount the possibility that if they want to move on, they would maybe draft. Okay, here's the Giants situation. The Giants are not ruling out drafting a quarterback this year. They're not. Then, Daniel Jones is going to be their starting quarterback to begin the season, but they're not ruling out adding to the position. I think the Dolphins should have that philosophy that we'll give you this contract, but if 2025 comes around and we feel we really like a player that could push you, okay, we'll think about that. And then year 3 that you guys are talking about, you just trade him. Right, you trade him because he'll be a one-year player with X number of dollars guaranteed left on his contract. You've already paid for most of it. You can figure out a way to find a team that needs a quarterback to take that off your hands, and a lot of the cap issues you're talking about kind of go away.
But here's the thing though, Ryan Tannehill. I'm going to use him as an example. Do you all know the only reason he was with the Titans this past season would have cost him $36 million. His cap number was $36 million. I don't exactly recall when he got his extension, but I believe that might have been his 3rd year. This is what, to me, is unpalatable when we're talking about Tua.
Well, they could have post June 1st him, or they could have found a team to trade for him. Like Ryan Tannehill will find
a starter.
He'll find a job this year. Probably in Pittsburgh.
Because his contract's over. Because he's a free agent. That's why he'll find a job.
Yeah.
They couldn't do anything with him last year, and they only kept him because the cap hit would have been unpalatable, and that's what I don't want to see happen with the Dolphins.
That's what happens when you have regime change, and Will Levis is a good, promising quarterback. Let's not say that he puts the team in better position to win, but we all know that's not how the NFL works. That the NFL works is about developing and taking the step forward, and Ryan Tannehill wasn't helping them develop and take the step forward, so now it's Will Levis's team.
You're missing the point, Omar. He'd have been gone last year if not for the fact that cap money was egregious for them. That's why they hang on to him.
Let me ask you guys this: 2 things. Number 1, if the Dolphins draft a quarterback, what about Tua's psyche? Does that negatively affect him? And number 2, are we sure that Tua can stay healthy again for, let's just say, 14 games, 15 games? I'm worried about his psyche if you brought somebody in, and I'm not convinced.
Nobody cares. He competed at Alabama with Jalen Hurts. I'm sorry. I don't care. I've never cared about a quarterback psyche. I've always supported competition.
I don't want a quarterback that I have to worry about coddling them.
Well, I
want an alpha leader. That's what I want.
But isn't that what
an alpha leader is?
That
is Tua an alpha leader?
I think this would. I think he has some alpha leader tendencies. I do. I don't think he is the prototypical. Like, he's not Big Ben. Okay, like there's shades of gray, but because you're asking, do I think he's a leader? I do think he has.
No, I didn't say that. No, I said alpha leader, which is the term you used.
I mean, he's a leader. There are a very small number of alpha leaders, quarterbacks in the NFL. And for us to sit here and say, oh, Tua is not an alpha leader, and that creates all kind of headlines, that's disingenuous. It's this list of alpha leaders is in the NFL, not just quarterbacks, is extremely small. But Tua is a leader without.
Yeah, and the Niners were just one stop away from winning the Super Bowl with the nerd. Okay, like Brock Purdy's a very good quarterback. He's a nerd. Okay, so I don't think that's the end all be all. But I also know one thing about Brock Purdy. He'll freaking compete. Like he clawed his way up from number 3 in the depth chart to win that job, and he would have been fine if they brought in Brady, because that's what they talked about, because he just wants the opportunity to compete.
But you know what? See, this is the perfect jumping off point, because again, it's not about Tua, it's not about Brock Purdy on that team. You got Debo, and you got Kittle, and you got McCaffrey, and I mean, like, it's so the Dolphins offense, they need to think about, this is not about Tua. Like, we've got to put stuff around Tua. And
we make it about Tua. I
think by what we see on the field, Mike McDaniel makes it about Tua. His offense is about Tua. And you need other stuff. He's not that guy. And that's not a slam on him. Most quarterbacks are not that guy. Built like San Francisco, built like Philly, built like Baltimore.
I think they have built like San Francisco. It just didn't work. It just didn't.
What?
I think they built like San Francisco.
Without a tight end.
They use their running game the same way.
They had one last year that they put a franchise tag on. And then
I love the Chris Perkins slander on the Dolphins running game, by the way. I love how much he hates it. Because even after Connor Williams got hurt, they were still averaging like 5.1 yards a carry.
All right. Stop with all this mess. Listen, and I think in the they played 7 games against playoff teams. I'm pretty sure they rushed for over 105 of those games. And
that's a volume issue. That's not an efficiency issue. They were still very efficient running the football all season.
The run game is not a factor. That's what I'm saying. It's not a factor. You're rushing for 100 yards, and it means nothing. Raheem Mostert had 1 rushing touchdown against playoff teams. 1.
Is that a personnel issue or is that a coaching issue?
I think it's a scheme issue that it's part talent, but it's also I don't think that they run when they abandon the run too often. Okay, and your run game is not a factor in your offense. It's there, it exists.
I think it's a factor. It's a factor that keeps teams stretched out horizontally.
They averaged 4.2 yards per carry against maybe the best defense in the NFL and the Chiefs in a playoff game at the North Pole. Okay, the idea that they just get shut down against the run it's a complementary piece. Now your argument should be it shouldn't be a complementary piece of the offense, but the foundation of their offense. That could be your argument. But the argument that they can't run the football is just false.
I don't say they can't run it. Again, listen, it's not a factor. They haven't won any game by running the football. It's not a factor.
Oh, they won the first Patriots game. All they did was run the football.
Yes, they've won games running football.
They won on defense with the defensive stuff. By the way, I want to go on the record. I'm going to go on the record, Omar, because you pissed me off with this. I don't make it all about Tua. I make it all about Tua when the contract comes up and I answer the question. And specifically, I'm going to call you out on – hold on. I'm going to call you out on this. When they lost at Kansas City, you were the one in Germany. You were the one who blamed it all on Tua on that last drive. And I said it was a team failure. It wasn't
Eagles
just
too.
Tua.
Eagles
so
too. Eagles too. Eagles too.
And you put it all on Tua, and I was like, no, it was a team.
But here's the thing: you're selectively because I said he has to play clutch in these moments where you have the ball in the fourth quarter, an opportunity to tie the game or take the lead, and he continues to fall short in those instances. What is your main complaint about him? Oh, he can't beat good teams. He can't come up in the clutch. He can't do this. Okay, so I'm putting it exactly where it was. In that game, you had an opportunity, just like you did in Buffalo, 1 minute and 53 seconds, and you didn't do nothing.
By the way, 6.2 yards a carry against the Ravens. I'm just throwing that in there.
They lost by 39 points.
What was the final score of that game?
Come on.
They ran the ball efficiency. That's the only
empty calories. Omar,
you scored 16 points. What the hell did the run game do?
Omar, was it his fault there was a mix-up with Cedric Wilson? Did we ever determine whose fault that was?
No, we never determined it. But you know what? I bet you Tua is going to take responsibility for
it. Obviously, and Cedric Wilson is going to take responsibility. but that's my point. That's not a Tua failure if Wilson ran the wrong route.
Listen, we're talking about a whole different scenario and a whole different offseason.
Well, I have to put up with Bees and Perk on a daily basis.
They both have to put up with it. Years. They also know what I got to put up with over there. Let's move on to the apocalypse, which, you know, when I said it was coming in the offseason last year, and Dolphin fans were like, why are you trying to rain on our parade? Let us enjoy our spending spree. Let us enjoy shopping at Neiman Marcus. Let's enjoy running up daddy's credit card. We don't want to hear anything about that. Well, okay, it's here now. And even though the cap is probably going to be a little bit higher than every year, it's the same thing. They're always projecting it to be higher because the NFL just continues to make a ridiculous amount of money. But you're conservatively, if we follow Beasley's plan of putting the transition tag on Christian Wilkins, which is going to disrespect the snot out of him, and not stop anybody from bidding, which is probably, if I want to stop people from bidding, I'm putting the franchise tag on. Now, but anyway, how do you fix a situation where you're basically going to have to clear about $75 million in cap space just to try to put this team back together again, not even improve it?
I have the answer. You release Emmanuel Ogbah. Go ahead, Perk. You're next.
You know what? I'll say this: my first tough decision, I got to let Robert Hunt walk. I do. I do. He's too good.
What's your price you put on him right now? What's your price you put on him right now to come back?
Oh, it would be ridiculous. I can't afford him. I can't, because look.
So you're not even making an offer?
No. Listen to me. I've said I want Christian Wilkins back, and more costly and more problematic, I want Xavier Howard back. And those are my two. Because listen, if I don't have X, now teams are going to avoid Jalen Ramsey. And that's the big deal. Like you want them to have to deal with both of them. So that's my starting point. And so
what you putting on X?
On X? I'm writing X a check. I got to get X's number down to what? 18? 16?
What you mean, total?
Speaking of that dude is 31 years old this season. 31.
I know, but Bees,
does he
saw this defense?
You saw it without him.
You saw the defense when he wasn't out there, and defense quarterbacks are going to throw at Eli Apple or Cater Kohu.
Are those your only two options? Your only two options are Xavier Howard or no Xavier Howard? The options are Xavier Howard or somebody other than Xavier Howard. Okay, so draft.
I understand there's other guys out there.
There are ways to address the position. There's actually some decent cornerbacks out there that you could sign for agency. I think what we get caught up is we see of what the opportunity cost lost is by losing a player. We don't see what the opportunity cost is by keeping a player. And it opens the Dolphins up to so many other possibilities when they say, okay, you know what? We are going to save this cash and we're going to fix the cap and we're going to go do X, Y, and Z. And we might be a better team because of it, because on the other side, we have two players instead of one. I mean,
I get it. I get that look, it's a good year for cornerbacks in free agency. How many of them can the Dolphins afford?
Well,
the old and
you're not getting like Jalen Johnson in Chicago.
Again, the good thing about signing new contracts is you can structure it in a way that you don't have the pain year one. So yes, there are ways. The idea that they're not going to be active in free agency, of course, they're going to be active in free agency. They're just going to have to be creative in how they structure the contracts.
Well, I would say that you've got to. To me, the whole basis of your early season defense is Jalen Ramsey and the corners, right? Because your edge rushers aren't going to be there. So that's why I understand what you're saying, Bees, and I don't think Xavier. I know he's not the X of 5 years ago, and I know that there are other guys out there, and he's not the only answer. But right now, I think he's your best option. I do. He's a player that you know can do the shutdown job and cause major headaches when paired with Jalen Ramsey.
I don't disagree with you. I think you can lower his cap number by maybe offering him a 3-year, $25 million deal. I don't know what he can get on the market, but we'll soon find out. They've got until, I believe it's the 3rd day of the league year where he's basically owed and guaranteed $7 million. So they got decisions to make on that front. Beasley, how do you fix this cap situation? How do you get the Dolphins 75 million in cap space?
Well, you mentioned the low-hanging fruit, obviously, Ogbah, Keon Cross, and guys like that. I mean, that's going to help a lot. I mean, there are 5 or 6 key cuts that you can make that will get you halfway home, if not more. Step 2 is you talk to guys and you have a frank conversation with them about their true value and say, look, do you want to make that here or you want to make it somewhere else? But you're
Which
not
guy?
Really Jerome, Tehran, guys like that.
You can't mess with Tehran's money. Not gonna happen.
You've got to have the conversation. Got to have the conversation.
Not touching Tehran's money.
All these big money guys, you got to talk to them.
When you restructured his contract last year, that $14 million, it's secure. So now, why would I jeopardize my $14 million when you need?
Because you're not guaranteed that. You're not guaranteed the 14. You're guaranteed 5. And that's the conversation you have with them. You're already going to get $5 million from us this year. Right. That's already guaranteed. What do you think you could get in an open market on a 1-year deal, Tron? Do you think you can get $12, $13, $14 million? I don't, because who's going to pay that to a guy that can't depend on? Right. So what you say to him, you already got 5 from us. We'll give you another 3 or 4. That's 9. And we'll give you a chance and incentives to get back all the money that we're taking from you if you play 17 games. Bet on yourself. That way he's making as much, if not more, here than he would anywhere else, and he doesn't have to move. Like, you need to play hardball. With the situation they're in, you can't just be cut, trade, or restructure. It has to be, hey, look, this is what you're guaranteed. This is all you're guaranteed from us, okay? And if you think the compensation of what we can pay you is less than what you're going to get elsewhere, lots of luck. You need to have those conversations.
Yeah, you got to shake down most of your top players. You do. Or else you're not going to be a contender. That's the only way the math works. I agree.
Now, here's the question. What happens when they go to Tyreek with that conversation?
You think you're going to shake down Tyreek?
Look, he ought to be the most cooperative, shouldn't he?
Tyreek is going to get a raise, gentlemen. Tyreek is going to get a extension, gentlemen.
I want
to
make a wager on this.
Tyreek
Hill gets a contract extension.
Let's do this.
Not a restructure.
Not a restructure. Extension. Years added.
Real money. Years added.
Years added, sir. That's what you decide what the wager is. Poop. How do you fix this cap situation?
What Omar and Perk said. No. I'm totally with you. Bees with Armstead, who's been a great player, great dude. We all love him and all that. But yeah, he's got a $20 million cap hit, and the Dolphins technically could cut him post June 1 and save like $9 million against the cap. If it got to that point. X, I'm not sorry, Perk. I'm not on board with X. I think, and I love X. He's been a great player, but he is 31 years old. He's had injuries the last few years. More often than not, I want to say he's not the cornerback that he once was. So and then you got the obvious ones we mentioned. Talking to Baker about a potential cut. I threw out Ogba because obviously that's a joke. I love it.
Okay. Let's just take 10 seconds and talk about Emmanuel Ogba, because who's rushing the passer week 1 for the Miami Dolphins right now? They've got no pass rushers that are going to be available. None.
But see, that's the guys that I go out and get on the market. You bring Van Ginkel back, but they're because they're almost temporary fixes. Once Phillips and Chubb come back.
Oh yeah.
However, I also don't think both of them are going to reach 100% health this season. Maybe one of them does. Maybe they both end the season at 80%, 90%. But I would rather go out and get an edge rusher than a corner to replace X.
And let's be clear. I'm not saying pay him Emmanuel Ogba $17 million or whatever. No, you talk to him about a pay cut. You say, "Do you want to be here back here? You're not going to be back here at the number you're at. Let's see if we can find a number that we both agree on." I think that should be their approach with a lot of these veterans.
All right, let's.
Yeah, hold on. Let me answer that. Except the only thing is Ogba is going to look at the situation. Do we really think he's going to be agreeable to a pay cut after last year, where it was basically made a complete afterthought? I think he's going to, absolutely the only way that would work is he would explore the market first, and there would have to be absolutely nothing out there for him, for him to even consider that. And Omar, I want to tell you something. I want to counter your whole Tyreek bandwagon type of thing going on here. Am I missing something, or did the dude not basically limp to the finish line each of his 2 years with the Dolphins because he had a one leg injury or another? And we're expecting that situation is going to rectify itself as he gets older and older and older.
NFL is 100% injury rate sport. That's kind of how it works. Answer the question: is he a top 10 player in the NFL? Yes or no?
God, that's a stupid black and white question, Omar.
Okay, it's a black and white question. There's no gray in it.
Was he a top 10 player in the NFL in the last 4 weeks of this season or last season?
Why are we adding some component to it? Did he finish the year as a top 10 player in the NFL? Yes or no?
Well, okay, all right. Why does Tua and McDaniel, why do they get crushed for their performances against good teams, and Tyreek gets a total pass? Like, look at his splits against good teams. They are brutal, absolutely brutal. Are you going to re-up to a guy that's won you nothing?
Yes.
Like, that's the thing, is he's won you nothing. Like, the big games, he is not showing up.
You know what? That's the problem with this whole offense, and that's why I say this goes beyond Tua. Like, this isn't about Tua. It's your whole offense does not work. For whatever reason, it's ineffective against good teams. And that's the conversation to bring this back that they need to be having in that building, that why can't we beat good teams? We have all this talent, and that's how you approach the offseason. To me, that's
good
where you
teams play with a physicality that they can't match.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, what are you guys doing with Connor Williams and Rob Hunt?
Connor Williams is my top priority to re-sign. And I know he's not going to be healthy for the beginning of the season, but he was your top offensive lineman. Robert Hunt, I make him a respectable $8 million a year contract offer, and I wish him the best of luck on the market. Yeah. He's a phenomenal guy, great player. I want to see him get paid, but they can't afford him.
You can't sign everybody. You can't. At some point, you got to say goodbye.
And it gets worse when you have a quarterback that's eating up 18% of your cap. So this is a team that's going to have to draft better, doesn't have to evaluate talent better, going to have to sign, not have to sign injury-prone players, which are the only guys signing these 1 year, $2 million deals. But we'll see. We've addressed a lot. We've accomplished a lot, gentlemen. I want to end this with one player that you think absolutely needs to be on this roster in 2024 to make the Dolphins get one playoff win.
Outside the building or inside the building?
Wherever you choose.
Tyreek, easy. Tyreek, easy. Done.
Bees, what you got?
Caleb Williams.
Who?
Who'd you say?
Caleb Williams.
Oh my God. Anyway.
Wow. Nice.
Wow.
I'm going with Derrick Henry. I'm going with Derrick Henry. I don't know what you do with Raheem.
Or
I don't care. You need that physicality. You need that hammer. And you, Poop?
I like the Caleb Williams answer. That was awesome, Bees.
I don't think he's that good, by the way.
You're not alone. Yeah, you're not alone.
Tyreek Hill. I mean, that's the one. Sorry.
Thank you.
All right, two guys that took the layup. All right, that's fine.
He's the best player on the team. You said he's the top 10 player in the league.
But we know he's not going anywhere. Like I meant one guy to add.
That's not what you said, Omar, though. Right. You didn't say, you said anybody. Now make it outside the building. Now the question is
outside the building then.
Okay, go ahead.
Then outside the building, Bees.
I already gave you my answer.
Perk, give me outside the building.
Caleb Williams.
All right.
These are jokes, people. These are jokes for you.
Oh no, they're not going to take them as jokes. At least it wasn't Justin Fields. That would have made it worse.
Wow. Man.
That's how we began these podcast unites, debates, wars.
Justin Fields,
somebody out there saying that the Dolphins needed Justin Fields. I'm like, where the hell is this coming from? Then
by the way, and if they get Derrick Henry, they've got to feed the man the ball, right? That's the other part of it. But I would agree with the Henry. Last year I was on the
Dalvin Cook.
Yes, I was on the Dalvin Cook. I called him essential personnel. I was wrong, but you do still need that element. I was wrong on the person, but I was correct on the element.
Definitely. All right, gentlemen, we appreciate your time. You can find Adam Beasley at Pro Football Network. All does phenomenal work there. And then he's got the Miami Dolphins podcast with Pro Football Network. And Chris Perkins is with the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. It's a weekly podcast. You doing it during the combine?
Yeah, we're on next Tuesday. We're gonna try and do a every 2-week thing.
Okay, on next Tuesday. And you know how to find me and Alan Poupard at alldolphins.com for free. No paywall, no subscription. No offense. I know Beasley has no paywall too. So
we're trying to make money.
They got travel budgets to pay for. All right, folks. We appreciate you for watching. Thank you for coming. And we will see you tomorrow for a live alldolphins.com podcast.
Thanks, Perk and Bees.
Thanks for having me.